In this example, using Snagit, I want to demonstrate just how to set up a presentation and basically test it out using Mentimeter so that we can get some feedback from the audience. So within my workshops directory, I have created a short presentation just to save some time called Stranmillis Online. And so I'm just opening up Stranmillis Online now. Okay, so what I've got is I've got 8 slides. The slides, you can see in the content on the left-hand side. These are all written directly using Mentimeter, but I could also import slides from existing PowerPoint presentations. And to do that, I would use the import button and just drag and drop. Now, whenever you pull in a PowerPoint, what it does is it adds the PowerPoint to the end of any Mentimeter slides that you've got. So if you wanted to start from scratch, the best way, if you want to add in questioning into an existing PowerPoint, would be to import it first, and then after each PowerPoint slide, you would then add in your Mentimeter questioning. So the first thing that I've got here is I just a standard heading type file, questioning for assessment and feedback. Well, where did that come from? Well, what I'll do is I'll just select Add Slide to show you. So the editing for any slides, the first thing it does is it gives us choices on the right-hand side for question types, so multiple choice through to imaging and so on, open questions from students. You can have quizzes where they have to select the correct answers and so on, or they might even have to type in their answers. And we also have content pages. Now, these content slides, basically, they're rudimentary compared to PowerPoint, but you've got your headings, subheadings, and paragraphs. You can bring in bullet points and so on, images, all those sort of things, and bring in a document as well. So you've got a link to a document. And we can also then, depending on the age and the type of audience that you have, you can have more in-depth type questioning. For instance, we might be able to ask in terms of a grid. So here, this example would be rating certain items instead in the case of their impact and their effort. So you'd be able to choose them graphically. And again, these are quite powerful feedback tools that we can use later. We also have little forms, but these forms, they're for a more expensive version of Mentimeter. I've got the basic version, so I do. And we also have competitions as well, so whoever wins gets the cup type thing. So let me go back. Here we had was a heading. So my introduction was just a heading, subheading. So when I click on it, it then gives us the options then of typing in your slide on the top, on the right hand side. So here I would just type in the title, and then in the subheading the details go in there. But you can also see now that immediately at the top of your slide it gives a menti.com and the code that would be used with this particular set of questioning. And so it's very good that it's on every page that you would need questioning with. And so this is quite a nice aid memoir for students and so forth. But I don't want to clutter up with this slide with heading. So I'm just going to go on the left-hand side and delete it. And delete, yeah. Okay. So we've got our introduction. And I'm then going to the second slide. It says slide with bullets. Well, what do I want? I want to be able to type in the types of question. Okay, I'm not the fastest of typists. Oops, caps lock was on. And the first one would be closed type questions, so polling, surveys, those sort of things. And then our open questions then. We don't need a third bullet, so to the right hand side there's a little X to remove, so I'll just remove it. If I want to add in another, I can. I can decide whether to show them the bullets one at a time or all at once whenever for the animation of the slide when it runs in the presentation. We also have reactions that students and users can have, so if they like the slide or if they have a question about the slide, we can access those as well. Okay, so I'll also give in the question. So for instance, say someone, lots of people click on the like, yeah, we like this slide, but some people are confused by what they see on the slide. They can click on the question mark. That makes a pointer for you that you can then respond to that and maybe clarify whatever the issue was that the pupil or the audience had. So I'll go to my next question now, and the first type I want is a closed type question, and polling is a typical example of a closed type question. And so just this example, what I'm going to do here, I previously is a current learning environment model based on pedagogy, or is it driven by the economics? In other words, we're being forced to do it for other reasons other than the pedagogy. So this allows you to ask a yes, no type question. And so what I'll do is I'll go then to my polling. Now we can see that I've already ran this, tested it. Yeah, basically, yeah, somebody said pedagogy. That's fine, but that means that that result is now going to contaminate the next run of the test. So what I want to do is go over to the right hand side. I can download the results that'll come down in the form of a PDF, and it'll actually be very useful to analyze later on. But here I just want to reset the results. So I'm going to reset, and I'm going to reset this slide only just now, because I want to show you examples of other slides later on. So the question is the current learning model based on pedagogy, and you can see I've got a typo. So I'll go up into the address, get rid of that extra G, and hopefully now, yes, good, I can spell again. So now we come back then to the type of options. The two options that we've got are pedagogy or economics. If I wanted to add in others on the right hand side, here I can add in and give other options as well. So I'll just remove that. But you can see that the result layout, I've got bars, I've got a donut type if you want that type, or even pie chart, or in terms of dots. The dots are okay if there's a large demarcation between, say, option 3 and option 2. But if they're all very similar, then it can be difficult to extract them. So we might want to see what the actual numbers are. So below this, we've got extras. Is there a correct answer, for instance? It could be yes, such as pedagogy in our case. But we would also want to show the results in a percentage. So I'll click on that, and then so those dots, rather than you having to count them, it'll give you the actual number. And you can also have multiple options as well. We can also relate it to previous questions or other questions that are coming later. That's in the segmentation. That's if you want to branch out and take a questioning down particular lines. So I'll leave it I'll take out the percentage, just leave it as 2 bars just now. And so then I'll come back over to my left hand side. So that's question number 4. So what I want to do, instead of the pedagogy or economics, well, let me ask something more sensible. For instance, we'll take out the title, and I'm going to say, is the PAR model useful for teaching remotely? Question mark, yeah. And so I'm going to have 2 options. One is yes, and the other is, no. So we've got the yes and no, and so yeah, I'm going to stick with that. So that was question number 4. So you can see now that it's quite easy to change the questions around, retype and so forth. So I'm going to move now to slide number 5, and we're going to look now at open responses. Here what I want to do is I want to request an open response, and basically what that does is it allows your students to maybe think about the answer rather than just saying yes, no. Well, what is it that's actually important to them? And so here we can get things for assessment, really, that we start to look at their reflective capabilities, the type of language that they use as well, because language can be very important, especially in particular professions such as engineering, medicine, and so on. So it's very good to actually see that they're actually using the correct language. So that's, again, this is just a standard content page, so it is. So let's go now and look at the actual questioning type. So on slide number 6, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the question. So over on the right hand side, first of all, you can see there was some testing going on. There was 2 responses in that. So what I'm going to do is I'll just put this in now. The question, what was the question? It was slide number 6. So what makes the PAR model useful for, oh sorry, that's my bad typing again, useful for remote teaching? So now the respondent has to think about, well, what is it that makes it so useful? So it's not just a yes or no anymore, and we've got different types of approach. We can have a layout, for instance, speech bubbles. So these are fixed, they appear just, that's it, it doesn't scroll. Or we can have responses coming in one at a time. And so you look at the response and you can talk about it. You don't know who's made the response, but you can actually have a discussion with the group, with the class or the audience, whatever. And that shows value then for the student who's actually made that comment as well. And then using the arrows above and below, we can move up and down between the comments, or we can actually watch the comments coming in as a flowing grid as well. So I'm just going to choose a flowing grid. But if I wanted, I forgot to say this, with the question title, we also have the ability on the right hand side, there's a little image, so that we can actually bring in images as well. So we can have images in the background or at the side and so forth. So you may wish to actually ask them to make comments about what they actually see. But one of the useful things about the comments and one of the dangerous things is the free use of language. And so it's possible that maybe someone might have an issue and they're actually using inappropriate language. And so what I want to do is to show you the profanity filter. So here again on the right hand side where the cursor is moving, we can actually choose a language filter. And it chooses, I've set it for English, but what I can do is I can select all. And so no matter what language is that's selected, and basically these languages are European and Asian. And what we want to do is just make sure that none of these appear so that we don't upset people. So are there other possible languages? Yes, there are, but Mentimeter doesn't support them at the moment. And we can allow people to make multiple submissions. So you can enter something and I think, oh, I should have said the following. So you can enter again. So that way then, at least you're not just blocked out after one response that gives you an opportunity to reflect. So I'm just going to keep it like that. And then finally, and then number 7 then, what we're going to be looking at now is receiving comments from students. And to me, this is the most powerful bit. With assessment, I like dialogue. I like to talk to my students about what went on within the learning material itself. And so we can find out whenever they're discussing with us whether or not it made sense to them, was it useful for them, what issues need clarified, which things do we need to work on a little bit more and so forth. But the good thing is that these comments may be displayed or moderated. So you can actually choose whether or not you want to actually display comments because they may not be appropriate for that particular lesson. So let me look now at slide number 8 to give you an example. And so basically saying, would you like to make a comment on e-assessment? Well, rather than as bland as e-assessment, let's call it the PAR model. So something really specific. Now, basically here what we want to do is, well, I want to be able to ask questions throughout. So if you do that, the first option is on all slides. And so throughout you can get questions appearing for you, and so that you can respond to the audience, or you may just decide it's only when I'm giving a question and answering slide that I want to participate with questions and comments from the audience, because it could make your presentation a little bit disjointed if there's lots of questions coming in all over the presentation. So I want to let the audience see each of the other questions as well, because that's how we learn. But we've also got the possibility of moderation. So if I click on moderation, then basically what that does is, are automatically shown, in the more expensive plan, that allows us to actually choose which actually would be displayed. Again, I don't have that expensive model, so I don't. So that's my quick Mentimeter questioning. So what do I want to do? Well, the first thing I want to do now is to run it. Let's see how it looks. So if I go up to the top right hand corner, click present, now we can see that we have the presentation. I've made it full screen. If I press escape, then you can see that we bring it down to the smaller screen. If you wish to access your address bar and so on, maybe there's other things that you like to bring in throughout the presentation. So we want to make some responses. So what we do is we go to menti.com, use the code, so 782446, and that allows us then to address each of the questions. So in this setup, the questions would be available for the duration of the time that I'm making the presentation, or we could time it as well. So I'm just pressing escape. That's bringing me back to my editing, and now I'm finished. And that's it. There's no save button or anything like that, because it automatically saves for you, so it does. So I can now quit out of my Mentimeter work. And so that's what I'm going to do. Back to home. And I'll now stop.